Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shaman Wood podcast. This is Out of the Gloom. This is episode 32 of our podcast, and we're very excited to have a third man who has been on the show before, but this time a completely different conversation. So, as always, please welcome my partner in crime, Doghouse. And today, as I mentioned, our third man comes to us from the Plainfield region, just to our north. This is Brett Shepard. He's joined us once before, but this time Bedpan, as we know him, we'll be talking about a
Hmm.
very special event coming up in a few months. But before we get into that, man, just in general, how are you doing today?
I can't complain, to be honest with you. 2026 really is starting off as a fabulous year. Really rolling into a solid stretch of finishing off January into February, and just really being intentional about every day, every week, and it's paying off.
Good. Good. What about you, Doghouse?
Yeah, I'm good. Just trying to corral my dog here on the side, but she'll be good. Um, yeah, I've been a little lighter on the F3 side, focusing more on basketball. A lot of leagues are picking up all at once, it seems. So, pretty good overall. I got 4 games this week, but definitely looking to pick back up with Winter Warrior coming up, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit here.
Ooh, 4 games. How many leagues are you in this year at this time of the year,
I'm
Doghouse?
in four. I had to turn down two people.
Oh, jeez.
Wow,
Yeah.
you're a hot
I guess.
commodity. Did they know that you traveled to North Carolina?
No, don't tell them that because I told the guys I wouldn't even drive to Dalton. So they know I'm going to North Carolina. They won't be too kind to that.
I guess when you're 6 foot, what, 6'8"? What are you? 6'7"?
6'8".
6'8"? Yeah, I guess you're a hot commodity then. And I
And an
can tell you
awesome
from
head of hair.
experience, at 5'10", I'm not a hot commodity in men's basketball leagues.
Hmm.
I'm sure you got the softball guys calling you up.
And that starts probably another month or two. That I'll be excited for. All right, well, we are going to jump into a little bit of a different structure today. As I mentioned, Bedpan has been with us before, so we've gone through the typical PAX Q&A. But as we always do, let's still share the core principles, mission, and credo, Doghouse, if you don't mind.
Yep, gladly, thank you. So F3 has 5 core principles. One, we're open to all men. Two, we're free of charge. Three, we're held outside, rain, shine, heat, or cold. That's been an important one lately for us. Four, we're
Yes.
pure lit in rotating fashion. And five, all work outside in a circle of trust.
Aye,
Aye.
We have a motto to leave no man behind, but leave no man where we find him.
aye.
Mhm.
And we have a mission statement made up of a task and a purpose, and that is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups of men for the invigoration of male community leadership.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait, I would still like to ask each of you if there's a workout from this last week or so that stands out, something that felt extra special or felt memorable to you. If you would mind sharing what you've been up to this last week or so, I'd love to hear it.
Go
Yeah,
for it,
I'll go
Doghouse.
first. Yeah, thanks. I'll jump in. We had a good one Friday at Three Rivers. So Finch, who is typically an evening guy, jumped on the queue in the morning for his third-year anniversary. Typically, as one does, he shared much of his trials and tribulations and how F3 has helped him become a better man, physically, mentally, emotionally. Um, just joining in, what would it have been, the 30th of right around the end of January, of course, was a very bitter cold time to start. Um, Friday wasn't too bad. Nah, I think it was like 10 or so. I think he was telling us on his first queue, he was around single digits for sure.
Hmm.
But a good overall queue. We did basically as a group, we did I guess I'd call it as a ladder style workout. We started with sevens, if I remember right, Merkins, I'm sorry, burpees, overhead press, chest press, and curls. And then we doubled the set each time with a doubled the sets, dropped the last workout, and then hit a 400-meter lap, I believe he said it was. So good full body workout all the way around. And I see the rockets going up. That's hilarious. Um, yeah, so shout out to Finch on 3 years. Great queue on Friday, and looking forward to many more to come.
Awesome. What about you, Bedpan?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a fun loaded question here. So first off, if packs have not gone down range and experienced F3, not even just, going to, Plainfield or Naperville or Outlands, but being able to travel, it's such a great experience. So I was down in Kentucky, Louisville, last week for work. And ironically, I was down the street from multiple AOs. So I hit up a run club since I'm training for Maui and GRE, wink, wink, the Mary Marathon. So I wanted to get a run club in. So I connected through the nation's Slack to Captain Crunchberry, and he
Hmm.
was the brainchild behind the Sandlot Challenge, that
Yeah.
300 miles. You pick and choose what you want to do, created all those awesome medals. So I got to hang out with him and go for a run. And Kentucky was not any warmer than here, and they had more snow because they don't know how to remove it like we do here. So that was cool to experience a run club, shoot the shit with him, kind of learn about the Sandlot Challenge and the history behind that, and posting down range with a couple guys. And I worked out, did leg day at the hotel, and then Friday I posted with the Nantan, Steve-O, who led a garage workout, which was kind of cool. So we don't have parking garages by us, so getting to do a boot camp in the parking garage. Yeah, we had a little shelter, but let me tell you, that definitely burns the hammies and the glutes, running up that incline. So that was really cool. There's a savage group of like 17 guys out for that. So being down range was just a lot of fun. And I've been modifying what I'm doing now for my running training. So 3 days a week of running, long runs Saturday, two kind of easy and or speed work during the week. And I have officially gone back to the Y one day a week to do intentional legs. So
Hmm.
that's the one area that, I was like, okay, when I run and I get up there, 8, 9 miles, I start feeling it in the hammies. It's like, all right, let's follow what Runna, great app plug there for a great, business, has me doing one day a week of weights. So I'm been pretty happy with, getting out of the cold, I guess, and intentionally working the legs.
It's funny you say that. First, I remember the Sandlot Challenge. It seemed like maybe local bias, but it seemed like there were more guys from Plainfield and Shaman Wood than any other part of the country. Like everyone,
Yeah. He
there
mentioned
was a
that
lot of
one,
chatter at
and
least.
he didn't even know how Sparkler found it or got a hold of him. And I mean, again, what's next is kind of what we're going to talk about today. Having Sparkler be in charge of that was great to rile up the troops, and it was pretty cool for how deep that we went, and the effort that was put in. It was awesome to see it.
And I'm right there with you. These last couple of weeks, certainly those very, very cold weeks. I put more time in on my treadmill in the basement just to keep my mileage up than I have in probably the last 2 years. But when you've got a goal and you really don't want to get outside to run, you've got to find some way to get those miles in. So I certainly did.
Yes, you do.
So I
And that app
will.
you mentioned, sorry, let me jump in real quick, Puddle. So that app you mentioned, that's Runna, Runna.
Correct. Yeah. So
All
Strava
right.
just purchased them. So Rana is the AI training software platform. So I started, I think I'm on my fifth week now. I told them the Maui Marathon is this date. This was my 5K pace. How many days a week do you want to work out? Do you want to include, the gym? And boom, it builds it. And if you
Awesome.
have a watch that can speak to you or has a microphone, I can run and it tells you slow down, speed up, you're on track because it's more than just go run 6 miles. You're starting to do tempos and blocks and all sorts of different styles to build
Mhm.
endurance and things like that. It's like having a trainer on your wrist, and then it has the AI information it gives you. So it's definitely worth the membership if you got something you're training for.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out.
I know some of our guys use that. I'll ask around tomorrow at Run Club. I have a feeling Spit Valve uses that.
He does.
And
You'll see it the way that it posts to Strava automatically. It's got like another image of like the bar graph and shit like that, and then it'll spell out what the workout looked like. So you'll see that seamless integration into Strava.
hmm, interesting. All right. Well, looking back at the last week, I'll actually come back to this in my COT, but I'll go a little bit in a different direction to a third F event on Saturday. We had our Shaman Wood blood drive at the Shorewood Troy Library. It was
Nice.
the first time we've done that. First time we've done anything in partnership with Versity, the blood bank in Illinois, and the library. So shout out to both of them. But we were able to generate 21 units of donated blood between whole blood and double red blood donations, and that translates to 63 life-saving opportunities. So I was really proud
Huge.
of the not only the F3 men who showed up, but a handful of people I didn't even know came out. And that was really interesting just talking to them, trying to get a sense for where they're hearing about these things. And it's amazing how word travels when there's an opportunity to do good. So I was really excited about that. I'll come back to that in my COT.
Well done,
Uh,
man.
Yeah.
for now, though, let's move ahead to the second half portion. Again, this is typically our Q&A. If you haven't heard the first time Bedpan was on the podcast, please take a look back through the old files on Spotify and find his original Q&A so you can get to know him a bit better. Today, though, I wanted to ask you specifically to talk about GRE 69. It's coming up in the spring. I know it's an event that you're very passionate about, and there's lots to talk about here. So I'll give you the floor. I'll let you talk, and Doghouse and I will both ask questions as we go along.
Perfect. No, I appreciate to have this platform to get out there and share with the packs. Everybody's familiar with GTE or Grow Ruck, right? So that was, the growth training exercise underweight. For the men out there that have done it, they all know exactly what I'm saying. That's one of those life-changing misogis, one of those things that was so tough that when you complete it, you feel victorious. You feel like you unlocked something on the inside there. So I've done multiple GTEs. I helped to bring it underneath. Vern was our Q back in 2022 when we brought it to Plainfield. So since then, Grow Ruck and that whole formula has broken away from, F3 Nation and that brand, and it's now under Freedom Ops. So if you ever see any publications about Freedom Ops, their Facebook page, or, how you register for the event, it is now its own standalone business. It's its own entity. It's got its own legs. And it's not just for men. They've done a few events for women. So Freedom Ops is really their ability to create events and share it with the world and some of the great things that they've accomplished through the formula of GTE. So some psychopath somewhere goes, well, how about we take off the rucksack and just make people run for a couple hours or a day and let's sell tickets. And guess what? People are buying it. So, really what I try to explain GRE or the growth running exercise is as purposeful running. And it's more than just the event itself. And what I realized, especially with reindeer games and, your future, winter warrior, it's all about getting together with other men to train and do stupid shit together, right? And the ECs that we've created in reindeer games is by far probably one of the most impactful pieces is getting out there and just doing extra credit rucks or runs with purpose. And, it's getting points. And that's really what I want to bring to GRE is another flavor of doing something difficult and doing something challenging, but really creating the culture up to the event, which is getting out and doing the long runs on Saturdays, doing some specialty training during the run clubs, and just getting out there and having some intentions. And again, it's cold out. What else are we going to do? We might as well start training for something that when spring gets here, what a great reward that during the miserable winter here we've been training and we're ready to go and we can hit the ground running here in April. So this event will be kicking off Friday night, April 10th. It's a little bit of a different formula than Grow Rock, where we had the what we call the rally that Friday night, which was like a dinner get together, doing our stuff. Then everybody goes home. Then we wake up the next morning for the King Builder. Then from the King Builder, you go into Grow School, and then you have your break during the day on Saturday, and then you come back, prepared by about 5:30. Cadres show up at 6, and basically you don't know what's going to happen. So there's been 3 grow run exercises so far across the country. They've been successful, and we're continuing to learn and understand. There's a committee really putting in effort to create this event because being underweight is definitely excited to present this event, especially for any of those men out there that can run a 10K. You're going to be able to do this event. It's going to be staggered and broken up, throughout the night. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting event. So just from what I said there, do you guys have any questions before I just keep rambling?
So you mentioned there have been a couple throughout the country already. Where have the previous ones taken place?
So they had one in Texas and then somewhere on the West Coast, let's call it like Washington or something like that, and St. Louis. So each one, they're understanding the recipe or the formula to success. So they're actually coming here to us, and we're pivoting and changing the formula a little bit because it used to replicate the rally, then the grow school and stuff like that, and we're not doing that. So this is only going to be one night, which is Friday night, where you'll be showing up to the StartX in the evening. So we'll be starting in the darkness and running through, Friday night through Saturday, and then ending around dinner on Saturday. Yes, we'll be providing breakfast. There'll be lunch and some other events that are going on, throughout there and multiple evolutions. But that's how they're kind of changing things up. So then the packs can be home with their families Saturday night and into Sunday. So it's not a 3 day event, which I know has caused some concerns in the past for other packs. They're like, man, we got a rally Friday, then we got the event Saturday, and then I'm not getting home till Sunday, and then I'm a waste on Sunday because I'm tired. So we're trying to modify to remove that barrier of how busy life can get.
So how much of the 3 days is running versus more structured leadership and growth activities?
Yeah, so really the running is going to be that evening from Friday into, Saturday evening, and we're done. And then we're going to end with the rally at the end. We got some surprises and things that we want to do where we want the family and your 2.0s and your wife to congratulate you at the finish line and kind of turn it into a celebration and having the rally at the end than at the beginning. So the first part of the evening, I can't give away all of the good news here, but just know that Grow School is going to be integrated into the first evolution. So we will be doing running, and then there'll also be the Grow School piece. So there's a nice little change up on how that is. So that's where the leadership piece is going to be over a longer period of time, and then it's going to be kind of like a relay sort of piece there. So that'll be the leadership, the growth, and the development is going to be in evolution one. Once we roll into evolution two, and then into evolution three, that's where we're going to start kicking up the game a little bit here and creating something awesome.
Okay. And I know it's a regional event in a sense, but it's not like the Plainfield region. It's not the Shamanwood region. It's really encompassing a lot of regions in our area. Can you talk a little bit about that as a focus?
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that one up here. So when I threw, the hat or my name in the hat or, just our area, they put Plainfield. So ultimately, we built five different routes. I have five shared leadership members, myself included. So we got Parks and Recs out of Outlands. And him and he's been my ride or die for multiple Ragnars, 4.5, what do you want to call it? Grow Rucks, and just all sorts of other stupid events. So he was a perfect savage to have in my corner. Then we got Big Gong coming out of Naperville. We got Pee Wee coming out of the King's Den, myself for Plainfield, and then we have Plunger representing Shamanwood. So we got a great group there, especially Plunger with the fact of his connections with the run clubs and actually being a little bit more of a professional when it comes to running over a
Mm.
bunch of us idiots that just put on running shoes if they're actually considered running shoes and we just try to run. So ultimately my goal was is that you hear about all these mega regions. St. Louis is, exponentially larger, but they have many regions that come together to create a mega region down in, like Katy, Texas, and some of these other areas. There's no reason why our area shouldn't be considered a mega region. We represent the nation knows of us. Like we're all doing a great thing. We all splintered from Naperville, so that's kind of the root of everything. And then we're a starfish from Naperville. Outlands is a starfish. King's Den is a starfish. You guys are a starfish from us. So I mean, we have such a solid presence and a dense presence here that I didn't want it to be just, oh, it's this region's. I wanted it to be something that brought everybody together for some sort of purposeful event. It just happens to be based around running. And then the most important thing here is having that shared leadership team because it's one thing for me to pop on Outlands when I'm not on there all the time. And the only time you hear from Bedpan is, hey, sign up for, GRE, blah, blah, blah. And then you disappear or I'm over it. No one doesn't, I don't really know that many guys at Kingston. So having a voice that's local that can, motivate the troops, talk to the guys and are out there day in and day out. It was nice to create that shared leadership team and bring all of these regions together behind one purpose.
Hmm. So I mentioned we have our run club tomorrow. Doghouse will be there at Run Club tomorrow. I'm super
Yeah.
excited to see him. We've got the Shanahan 5 mile coming up on Saturday after our convergence, but I'm filling in for Plunger as Site Q tomorrow.
Yeah, he's in
But
Dubai.
if you were able to give me a talk track to talk some of those guys into signing up for GRE, what should they expect? Why should they want to do it? And what questions should they be asking themselves or asking you as a contact?
I think the biggest one here is that everybody is ready and we have time. So the biggest goal here is just get together with your shield lock, and just get out and start running. That's it. There isn't any big piece here because there is going to be breaks throughout the night. There is going to be downtime and things like that in between each of the evolutions. So the biggest question here is that what are we training for? Like what is
Mm-hmm.
next? And I think that in itself is it's New Year's resolutions. I mean, how many of those have already died in January? Well, if you don't have that next hard thing on there, because I always have something that I'm training for. If it's this Maui Marathon, it's the GRE, maybe it's a Ragnar, maybe it's an overnight ruck, maybe it's something, but there's always that one thing that I'm doing in the back of my head that I'm training for. And I really enjoy having something to look forward to. Yeah, sometimes it could be miserable. It could be, a little painful at times, but that's where we unlock growth, And when's the last time, we've been uncomfortable? Doghouse, I know that he pushed himself through through reindeer games, So now that he's recuperated, he's licked his wounds a little bit. Now he's a pro basketball player. What's next? And that's the question I think we really got to ask the packs is that what are you doing next? Because if we're not moving forward and we're standing still, we're actually decelerating. And I know that F3 talks all the time about constant being in motion. I do believe in recovery. I do believe in all of that. But what is it that we're doing? So I think really it's giving men a reason to lock arms with their shield lock and get behind an event that's local. We don't have to travel. It's not like you're having to get hotel stays. You're not driving 4 or 5 hours to St. Louis or Indiana or Kentucky and things like that. What you can expect is you're going to expect a challenge. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that this is just going to be a 5K and you're going to get a medal. The whole intention behind this is unlocking something more than yourself and you're going to push yourself. So if you're looking for something like that, surrounded by amongst other hard charging men from our region and potentially outside the region, give me a call. Let me know. But don't let fear of this unknown be a preventing factor of that one. Because really what it means is then get out and get some miles. Just like we would prepare for a grow ruck, you get under the ruck, just get out and run. There's no pace time clock that you need to do. There's nothing like that. It's just getting out there and having time upright in motion is what we really should be focusing on. So that's really one of the four areas that we focus on when we're talking with the PAX and GRE. One is the physical side of things. What does that training look like? Two is talking about nutrition and hydration and that piece. So game days here, if you've ever ran a half or a full or anything like that, what does that nutrition look like? What's a goo? What type of water? What type of electrolytes? Those are all really valid questions that having people like Plunger and Parks and Recs that are, dialed into that part. We're going to talk about nutrition. Gear's another important piece here. What about my shoes? What do I do with that one? We are going to have the reflective band that's required, and then you should have a water bladder that can hold at least 1 liter worth of water. Now, the cool thing about GRE is that since we are running slick, besides the bladder, we don't carry all the gear with us like we do inside of a rucksack. So what's different is that each PAX is going to bring a uniquely marked, with your name, duffel bag. In that duffel bag will be your change of, shoes, any other clothes, socks, extra nutrition, extra water, whatever you want. This duffel bag will be brought by the volunteers to each and every one of the evolution points. So when we stop and we, hydrate and do whatever we need to, you have access to your gear bag, which is cool. One other thing that's different because, us runners, we're different than the ruckers. We need to have our watches. So you actually get to have an electronic device with you to track and actually see the mileage and everything that you're doing. So that is one unique piece to the GRE that is not allowed at any GTE is any sort of electronic device. So that's gear, so we'll go through and we're here, working with the packs, especially if they haven't done an event like this, making sure that they're prepared. And fourth and final is really the mental piece. We're all going to hit the wall at some point. If anybody's ever you ran a half. I mean, did you feel like you ever got close to that wall?
I don't know if I did. The weather was so miserable. There were probably a
That's
lot of
true.
mini walls. But I did. I ran the full marathon like 15 years ago, and I did hit a wall at that point. It's more about like a hamstring
Hmm.
issue. But yeah, you get to a point where you're just not even thinking straight anymore. Your body starts to shut down and you're in a different space.
So the goal here isn't about it being, just this one grueling 4.5 hour run. We're going to get in, around a marathon's worth of running, but it's going to be broken up. So any of you folks that have ever run a Ragnar, hell, most of those legs cumulative over the course of, a 36-hour time frame is going to be close to a marathon, if not more, depending on your legs. So, take that in consideration. Any of you road Ragnarans, you know what it's like to have, the lack of sleep, the fun, but just thinking about we're not getting into the van, we're moving around our area here. We got different evolutions. It really pretty much brings every element of running that you can think of. There's going to be speed work, so we'll have a track involved. There's going to be a distance part. There's going to be team-based events, kind of like scavenger hunts and stuff like that. So we're going to be in motion, but it's all going to have a purpose. And, as the night moves on, just like any GTE, it's like a play. And, as the play progresses, we got different chapters in that play. And, sometimes you hate that freaking chapter. And then the next one, you're like, okay, I can see why that chapter ended. And now we're moving into the next act of this play. So it really is going to be a scripted, purposeful running event. And I hope that gives you enough explanation without telling you everything. Because at the end of the day, I don't know everything. I submitted, well, Parks gave two, I gave two, and then working with Plunger and Squid, we put in another one for Shamanwood. So we have 5 routes that we gave to the cadres. They're going to pick that one, and that one will kind of determine, where it's located. It could be Shamanwood, it could be Oswego, it could be Plainfield.
I wanted to ask you about that, not knowing what to expect on the weekend of, obviously, when you sign up for a 5K, a 5 mile, a 10K, a half, whatever, you know what to expect on the day. You know how to train for it based on what you're going to be doing that day. What are some of the men doing in the weeks leading up to GRE to get themselves ready for essentially the unknown?
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than the GTE. We just got out and we rucked. You do your ruck club, maybe you're doing some longer rucks, maybe you're doing some EC, you're just getting underneath weight. The best way to prepare is just continue to do what you're doing. I mean, if you're posting, multiple days a week and most of those are boot camps, then I'd advise that you at least incorporate maybe 1 or 2 run clubs. If you're a 5 day a week, then maybe you got 2 run clubs. If you got other men like Plunger and some of those guys there, be like, hey, I know you guys like to run long runs on Saturday. Can I come out and do 6 miles with you? Just starting to be upright and in motion. Parks always told that to me. It's not about your pace. It's not about the distance. Just get out and run. No one cares about what that looks like. It's just getting your body dialed into the fact of just being upright and in movement. So the biggest advice that I can give is, you hop into the GRE channel and you start chatting like, okay, I'm a little concerned. Or you could use technology, for example, the Runna app. Then you could just put that in and say that, hey, I want to start training for X amount of miles and I want to do 2 days a week worth of running. Let AI do that. Or you go on and you look for a half marathon calculator, going from couch to half marathon. We got time. The event is April 10th, and today we're talking is February 2nd. So we got over 2 months worth of training that you can do. Could you show up day one just with a few run clubs and boot camps under your belt? Yeah, you definitely can. Are you going to hurt? Probably going to hurt a little bit, but I mean, who isn't going to be hurting? It's up to you on what you want the experience to be. So my goal is to get the packs together and working purposefully for the main event, which is the GRE. I think GRE is all about the camaraderie, the training, and getting together before the event, and then we culminate, that night together and kind of celebrate each other. I got something in the back of my head after meeting with Captain Crunchberry from with the Sandlot that got me thinking. It's like, okay, maybe I can integrate something else in there to kind of motivate and dangle some points or something silly in front of guys that are signing up to make it some fun before we get there.
Hmm. All right, my final question on GRE, and this is the biggest question.
Uh-oh.
Doghouse are you in?
Oh boy. All right. For coming on again on the pod, for me growing, trying to challenge myself to something other than Ranger Games points, I'm in.
All
Yes.
right, you got your Shannon Road
Yes.
guy. There you go.
There we go. I love it. Yeah, I'll get you invited to the chat and we'll go there. And like you said, you guys will post that into the show notes. Take a look. And at the end of the day, just reach out and have questions. I know a lot of people when we were hyping, Grow Ruck. Were you both around for Grow Ruck in 22 in Plainfield?
I was
No,
not.
that was before me.
Oh, okay. So what was great about that is that we really amped up the ruck clubs and then intentional and purposeful rucking to prepare the men for it. And it was so cool. Men sharing, insight on the gear list and nutrition and getting out. And like there was something powerful and whatnot behind that one. And I don't know. I see that things have changed a little bit from when I did my first GTE back in 2020. Seemed like there was a lot more fire and energy. And over the past couple years, these recent GTs, I just haven't seen as many new packs jumping at it. I mean, what do you guys think? And from the time that you've seen it, have you seen that energy and that fire for big events like this? I know guys get behind reindeer games and this future, warrior, but what could you say is changing in either the dynamic of the men or their desire to do something completely stupid and utterly pointless and hard like a GTE or a GRE? What do you think is preventing men from wanting to even think about it?
It's,
And
it's
so
a
I'll
good
take
question.
that.
Yeah, I'll let Doghouse go first.
I think in general with some of the organized CSOPs, or not CSOPs, but events like GRE, I think part of it's travel and cost and being away for a couple days. I know we had a few guys do Ragnar from Shaman Wood last year. We kind of had unofficially a Shaman Wood team and I think a Plainfield team that went up to Michigan or Wisconsin, maybe both.
For the
Um,
trail, correct?
Yes, thank you. I think there's a desire of guys to try to do hard shit to challenge themselves. Um, you know, I've heard a lot of good things about the GT we did here. Obviously, that's in our backyard. The cost of doing so is significantly less. So obviously, when we're doing that, so I would guess cost, time, and miles travel, which kind of brings me to a question I did want to ask you. What can we, as the host, I'll say host region generically, men that live in the area where we're going to be hosting this event, is there anything we can do to help some of the out of town guys or downrange packs um, in any way that you can think of?
Yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that one. I mean, right
All right.
now, we have packs that are registered from, all of our regions, right? And now with
Mhm.
Doghouse, we got, Shaman Wood, on the board here. So I don't know if this is going to be as intentional as like when we did the GTE, we did have Indy and St. Louis and some of those other guys, but that was right around the fire that we rode deep to Louisville in 2020. We went to St. Louis in 21. So we were clown carring at least 6 to 12 men from what was either a Naperville or a
Okay.
Naperville Plainfield region, but yet I haven't seen us traveling nearly as much recently. So I don't know if this exposure is getting out there or if it's just really an intentional mega region for us. Everybody's welcome,
Mhm.
but I'll have to keep you posted. I think the big one here is just letting folks know that this exists. And that once they know and it's on their radar, I mean, how many men probably don't know? They haven't seen the video, they haven't seen the post. There's so much noise sometimes that happens on Slack or mumble
Yeah.
chatter that you don't know that these events happen until, oh God, if only I would have known 3 months ago, I would have started training. I can't start tomorrow. So that's what I really want to do is just create exposure and let men know that there is an opportunity and it's very attainable ahead of us here. Start training now so it's a little less fucking miserable when you get there, or you can jump in the day before. You're gonna survive. It just may be a little bit more tight and sore on Sunday.
You can suck now or you can suck later.
Correct.
You can distribute your suck now, though, right?
Yep. And what do you think, Puddles? What do you see? Because I think the cost is huge, and that's why keeping it local, keeping it one night, so it's not multiple nights away from the family, and things like that. We've heard that from the packs, and want to take that in consideration and keeping those costs down.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a part of it. I think that a bigger part, maybe a more understated part, is certainly as a newer, younger region, Shamanwood, there are very few of us who were even around for the GTE. So there's so much more. I mean, think about something like Free to Lead. There's such a high barrier of entry because of all the vocabulary, because of all the terms, because of all the unknown, because it's so different from what most of us have experienced
Mm,
pre F3. the to entry is really high. So I'm thinking across like why more men in our region are not talking about it. I think it's simply because they don't think it's for them. They think it's for men who have been in this for 5 years, who have been in this for much longer, because it
Mm,
is so foreign. It's such a very different concept. As I said, being a younger region, I know we've seen extraordinary growth in the last year or so. But so many of those men are still learning the names of our exercises. They're still getting the AOs straight. They're still figuring out how to use Slack. And this is like a junior high student looking at graduate courses because there's such a leap between your just now in this last 6 months, maybe getting into running, maybe challenging yourself for the first couple 5Ks that you've ever run in your life now to do like a 3 day event where there's really
one day.
a
Don't, you know,
retreat
don't scare
aspect to
people
it.
with three. Don't scare people with three.
Well, the difference between going to a 45-minute boot camp and
Oh yeah.
going to this sort of event is that the commitment's different. And I think that's really what it is more than anything else, just feeling not feeling like they understand it well enough. There is a lot of vocabulary, a lot of language. It's very different from what we've been doing. And that, of course, just taken in context of if it's different from what we're doing every week, it's very different from what guys who weren't even doing this 6 months ago are doing every week. Like they're still just getting used to, and I am too. I've been, this will be 3 years now, and I'm still not where I want to be physically or from a health standpoint. Even my consistency within F3 is better, but I still struggle from time to time. So I think that's it more
Yeah.
than if I had to guess, I would say a lot of the men look at it and they're like, well, I don't even know what he's talking about. Like that's not for me. I'll maybe consider that down the road.
Ooh.
But you look at guys like Squid who have been in this for years and years. Picasso's obviously been in this for years and years. The guys who even go to Ragnar, like last year, I know ATF went, Ricola went. Um, who else was on that team? Bueller went. So some guys
D-bag.
who've yeah, D-bag. Some guys who have would be somewhat the non-traditional runners. Like I know some of those guys are running again this weekend, and they're like, I don't see them at Run Club. Like they're trying to stay in it, but I wouldn't consider them like a Picasso or a plunger or a soft hands guys who run 3, 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So I think
I
there
mean, you
are
don't
some
have to
barriers.
be a Picasso. I mean, he's a rare specimen, but it does help, to get that practice. But I really appreciate that insight. That whole, this may not be for me, and part of that just comes from the fact of just, like you said, F3 can be very, very overwhelming depending on
Mhm.
personalities and where you found F3 on your journey. Was that just helping you to go straight from couch to getting active, or did you stumble into F3 after, running marathons and doing, CrossFit? It meets men wherever they're at. It's just, yeah, that's a really good point. I appreciate that one. And Doghouse, good points too on the commitment, the time, and the money. Kind of helps to understand, what messaging do we need to share, with the packs, because it's not just about, oh, we're going to do the most difficult thing ever, get out here and run. That's the reason I was using the word purposeful, because I want it to be purposeful. I see how beneficial it was when we trained as a region behind the Grow Ruck. It brought us all together. It was amazing. Just like we do all the EC for reindeer games and what all the nonsense you guys are going to do for Winter Warrior, it brings people together behind a common goal.
I'll add one more caveat to that. Just these last probably month or two, as we've been talking about Winter Warrior and trying to get, for the first time, our region behind something that's become very common in Plainfield and Naperville and elsewhere. As we looked around trying to identify captains and trying to
Mm-mm.
identify men who would step up, we heard far more often than I thought we would, no, I don't want to do that. And it was really surprising to me to hear men say, I don't want to. But I think what they're really saying is, I don't really know what that involves, so I'm not going to get myself into something that I don't really see my way through just yet.
Yeah.
And that's probably on us for not being able to explain what's involved in it very well. But I was really surprised to hear how many people said, no, I don't want to be a captain. I don't
Man,
want
that's
to.
a huge point, man. That's a nice breakthrough because when you speak that language to them in a playing field, we're not any different. We all start at the same point, but we've lived through all this. We know exactly what it was. And I saw your formula. I was like, all right, cool. I know that you're going to take, some of the good, the ugly, and what works with ours and modify it a little bit. And yeah, I can see your language.
Mm. Or well, I think we've gotten to a point where the GRE has hopefully piqued some ears in the Shamanwood region. I know there are a few men who will continue to become more interested in this as the weather starts to break. But again,
Mm.
that experience of training for something, I think is spot on. I know I really struggled December, November after the Naperville Half Marathon. I really struggled because I didn't have a next race. And for
Yes.
that December in November, December period, I really struggled until like the first of the year, I decided I had a running goal for the year. So now I was refocused. I had something in front of me to chase and I had structure and accountability. So I think there are men who are looking for that. I hope more and more of them will uh, take this opportunity to step forward and challenge themselves. And hopefully, this is one of many opportunities they have to do that. But I didn't
Awesome.
want to let too much more time to go by before asking you to build on this conversation regarding having something to train for. I think it's easy to say there's a race on the calendar. I know I need to build up to 3 miles, 5 miles, 13 miles, 26 miles, whatever it may be. But as we were talking on the pre-show, that kind of extends to other parts of your life where
Yeah.
you should always be pushing yourself to ask, what's next in my career? What's next in my home life? What's next in various aspects? And I want you to talk a little bit about that as well.
I think you led right into it because you just said it from your firsthand experience here. You got off the high of the Naperville one or the low of, running during a typhoon and the cold and your earbuds break and all of that. And everything miserable could have happened during that race. But then you realize time can slip by us very, very quickly. Next thing you know, we go through the holidays. Next thing you know, it's January. Next thing you know, it's July, and you're like, wait a second. I've been meaning to and I want to do something, but I haven't actually intentionally wrote it down and signed up for it. One last plug just for anything there. It's, what's that next race? What's that next event? We can do that. But you're right. This could be applied for home. So during my past couple of years here of getting out of healthcare, hence the name Bedpan, and pivoting into financial services and estate planning. One of the big pivots that I've had to do and training for it, I just did a boot camp in Louisville. Lo and behold, was a telesales boot camp. Was going through and learning the art of making those dials and creating that relationship and making those calls. And it's one of the toughest things that I've ever done. And I love to talk to people. I've been in sales the majority of my career, but it's something completely new that I've had to unwire myself and train. So on a professional level, it's been great, to have a milestone and setting new goals for myself. It's like, okay, in January, how much AP or annual premium do I want to write? How am I going to get that? What are the inputs that it's going to take to get to the outputs? And I think a lot of men and just people in general, they focus on the output. Oh, I want to make this amount of money. But what is the input that it's going to take to get to that point? What do you need to do daily and weekly and monthly? And if that seems daunting, then just get down to each day. What daily inputs am I going to do to move the dial in one direction that I need to for the business? Okay, I want to have a better relationship with my kids, or I want to have a better relationship with my wife. What inputs are you doing? We all want that relationship, but what are you doing? And if you haven't thought about it, have you asked for help? Have you read a book? Have you gone online? Have you talked to your shield lock? But I think we miss the fact that we want the output, but we don't do the inputs.
Yeah, I think that's something unique that
Yeah.
salespeople or people who have worked in sales really get. It's the leading indicators and the lagging indicators. And I think unless
Mm,
you've been in that space where you say you can't just focus on the revenue you want to attain, you have to focus on the actions every day that lead to that revenue. If you're just focused on the end, you can take a lot of shortcuts to get there. But if you're not making your dials, if you're not making your visits, if you're not doing the legwork, the foundational stuff it takes to get there, eventually that luck's going to run out and you're no
yeah.
longer going to have the result at the end.
And that was a huge eye-opening piece here. If you've ever heard, like, Jeremy Miner with NEPQ, I kind of consider myself a dabbler and a winger. I've been able to get to a certain level because of the fact of likability, being able to connect and build rapport, but that can only get you so far. There is a true mastery that needs to happen, especially with inside of the sales space to be one of those top 1%. So what do I need to do to practice, to do drills, to get out there? And it's only one thing to watch videos and go to training, but then it's to practice and then it's actually to implement. And the one thing that I've been realizing is it's really freaking expensive to buy leads and practice on leads. If that's going to be your way
Hmm.
of practicing, then, teeing up and working with the team and plugging in. And one of the things that my IMO or, like your marketing organization that you work with is that, most of the sales reps will succeed in community and they fail in isolation. AKA exactly why F3 is so powerful is that when you come out into our community, you're no longer being isolated and you can actually surround yourself with other men that are rowing in that same direction. They're putting in those same inputs, and then you get to visually see at the boot camp. I got to see some of our OGs that have been doing this for, 9, 10 years, and they're hanging out the boot camp supporting their agents, and they're putting up huge freaking numbers. And it's like, oh, damn. That's what an OG looks like. Just the same thing here. Come out to a run club. You got the guys doing ECs beforehand, or the guys that are just barely getting into, doing 2 or 3 miles during a run club. Just get in there, do those inputs, surround yourself with those like people, and you're ready to go. So hopefully that answered your question here about, doing some hard stuff or being intentional for work or home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. Doughouse, did you have anything to add there?
Nope. Thanks for the call out. I'm registered and I got to put a plan together.
Ha, awesome. I'll get you invited to the chat and you can start chatting with all of us on that one. Thank you, Doc House.
Awesome. Yep.
Excellent. All right, well, let's take a few minutes to close with some info only, and I'll wrap us with the COT before we cut out.
All right.
That's my part. I'm completely asleep at the wheel here.
Actually, before
He's,
you do that, Doghouse, why don't we give Bedpan an opportunity to plug his newest What's Next, the
ah,
business venture
absolutely.
in Plainfield. Why don't you take a couple minutes to introduce us to ACES?
Yeah, well, thank you for that one. So a lot of men have probably been hearing me talk about Aces Dispensary before it was even called Aces. So we have officially had our grand opening on that subarctic day of Saturday, the 24th of January. It was record breaking, even though how cold it was. We had a line outside the door all day. So Pax, if you're looking to, get Delta Better High, come on by Aces. It's on Route 59, just north of 127th Street on the east side. It's right there in front of like the Bell Tires. You can't miss it. Beautiful standalone building. It's got the marquee. So any new person that comes in, you get 420 off or 42.0% off your first order. Still working with the team here on what we can do to kind of help with the F3 and the FIA group out there. But any new guy that comes through, come on in, get a discount. You're going to have a great selection, great prices, and there's some more community give back that's going to be coming. We just need to get those doors open, and it's been great. So thank you so much for sharing Aces Dispensary in Plainfield, and for you guys in Chamonwood, keep driving north past Terabis. That place doesn't even exist, and just keep coming. You'll definitely have a better experience.
Well, we'll probably reach out to you again and talk about an opportunity. We're just starting to reach out to potential sponsors for the Shamanwood, the Shorewood Hugs and 5K race
Mm,
in April. So that might
okay.
be an opportunity to get your name in front of
Yeah,
some folks as
they
well.
showed up for us, pre-launch, for the turkey trot, and it was great to be able to show everybody that this thing that I've been talking about for 2 years. I mean, it's been the whole helping to get the licenses in Plainfield and doing all of that, all the way to building permits, the state of Illinois, and getting authorized and able to actually put product on the shelves. It's been quite an adventure. So yeah, I'd love for the team to come down and introduce themselves and shake some hands, kiss some babies, and go from there.
Excellent. All right, Doghouse is with some info only, please.
Gladly, yes, thank you. So, Saturday, February 7th, coming up here in a few days, probably the biggest day of the year in our region. Certainly one of the bigger days to date. So we're going to be kicking off one, our Winter Warrior, as we've talked about a few times. Two, we have our Convergence, which we haven't talked too much yet, I don't think, on this podcast. So if you're listening, you're not signed up, please sign up for our Convergence. That'll be at Three Rivers starting at 6:30. And finally, that same day will be the Frosty 5 Mile here in Shanahan. The next weekend will be Plainfield's Convergence at DeGriz. Also, if you're listening and you haven't signed up, please sign up for that. We definitely want to get some Chamonix guys out there, as well as anybody else listening in our little bubble of audience. Um, right, and then on Saturday, March 7th, we have the Manhattan Irish Fest 5K. That's followed on March 14th by both the Shorewood Shamrock Shuffle in Shorewood, of course, and the Braidwood Polar Plunge, which I believe that's a little bit later. I think you can hit both, but I will double check. We'll get times in for next week. Um, and that's our info.
Hey, real
One,
quick, when you mentioned the Plainfield Convergence, did you say DeGriz or DMZ? Because it's going to be located at DMZ in Plainfield.
maybe I
Thank
had
you. I
that
went
wrong. I'm
Ron
sorry.
Burgundy, and I was just reading what
Hmm,
was on the page,
that was my fault.
even though I did know it was DMZ. So thanks for the correction there. It is at DMZ, not the Grizz. Drive
Yep, no
past there,
worries.
but you didn't hear either one.
Yep, and we got your Shaman Wood Winter Warrior and Convergence for 2/7 on our info only, along with the Frosty 5 Mile.
Thank you.
One last thing, Doghouse, would you like to make a plug for our Super Bowl Sunday podcast?
Ooh, all right, juicy. I like that. Let's get that out there. So we've got our biggest guest to date. We will be recording Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, as Puddle said. That'll be we'll get that hopefully out before the big game starts. But we will be having Dread on the podcast. For those of you who don't know, he
Yeah,
is the OG originator of F3 out in North Carolina. I was fortunate enough to cross paths with him when I was out there on my Rainier Games excursion, and he was gracious enough to jump on with us. So Puddles and I are very excited to get him on the list,
that's
get him
so
in
cool.
the spot, yeah, and get him in the third seat on Sunday. So we will get that one up as soon as possible.
So if you have any questions for Dread, feel free to shoot them to us in advance. We'll see what we can
He's
do to.
he's he's amazing. Yeah, hopefully you guys. I mean, he can chat. I mean, he's
Oh
so
yeah,
articulate and way to go. I mean, the Psychopath Doghouse did something good by flying to North Carolina. That's so cool, man. I can't wait to listen to that one.
thank you, appreciate that.
Excited too. All right. I'll wrap us with a COT. I'm actually stealing this from Deja Vu. As I mentioned, on Saturday, we had our Shaman Wood blood drive, and he was one of the donors. And he left this testimonial of his experience on the Facebook post. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. He said, I've always known that I am an O negative universal donor, but I didn't donate. A couple of years ago, my brother had a complication during a procedure and needed 8 units of blood to save his life. He went into the OR with one IV and came out with five. I thought I should start to donate. When the blood drive came up yesterday, which also happened to be my birthday, I decided to go. They asked me to do a double red blood cell donation instead of whole blood because it can get into circulation faster. And being O negative, that was important. After the IV was in, the tech told me that not only was I O negative, I was also a neo. She explained that I didn't have a CMV antibody, so my blood could be used for babies in a neonatal unit. Apparently, this is a rare find. When I was finished and on my way over to get my cookie and apple juice, she said, "Thank you for donating. Your blood will probably be in a baby tonight." Wow, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I will be a regular donor from now on. So I wanted to share that just as a reminder of what's possible when good men get together and do good things. That now we've got somebody like Deja Vu who's going to be a regular life-saving, life-changing donor in ways that he didn't even know in his first 58 years on this planet. But super proud of him and really grateful for him sharing that story. I think it's one of the best ones you could possibly share to speak to the importance of the third F stuff we do and how this is truly more than a free men's workout group.
Yep.
All right,
Wow,
so with
Amazing.
that
that
was
in mind,
powerful.
we'll sign off as we always do with a quick name-orama. I am Bill Skoronsky, 47, And I'm Puddles.
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 John Christ, 41. Doghouse.
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 And I'm Brett Shepard, 44. Bedpan.
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 All right, man. Thank you again very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will see you all very soon in the gloom.
See you in the gloom.
All
Cheers.
right. Cheers.